Having a good year so far?
So far, yeah.
Yeah? So, okay, that's almost good enough. So, this is one of our special functions as a chamber. We normally do about 4 regular events each and every month. And our monthly luncheons are the first Wednesday of every month. And we don't do one in January. It's only because our offices are closed over the holidays. There's just no way to prepare for it and get everybody ready for it. And so we decided, let's go ahead and introduce something a little different, because people were going, we want to go somewhere. We want to do something. And so we really wanted to put together something very informational for you. And that's why we developed 411 sessions. Get dialed in. And so we expect to do at least 2 of these this year. This one, of course, as you know, because obviously all of you read the emails, and that's why all of you showed up to the right location, correct? I heard a few of you actually went over to the atrium today. So you got to read those emails. The information's out there. I know we all get a lot of information now, but the information's there. We are so glad you are here today, and I see a lot of new faces here today. So you're here to come be informed, and we are glad that you are here. For those of you who don't know, my name is Mark Lindenberry. I'm the President and CEO of the Greater EMC Chamber. We are member-focused. We are opportunity-driven. And this is a great place to do business, folks. There is no doubt about it. The excitement, if you haven't noticed, the landscape's been changing a little bit over the years, right? So there's a lot of reasons for that, and it's only going to continue, and we are going to learn what that's about today. We are also proudly supported by the Improvement District of East Montgomery County, better known as MCED. Do we have any board members in here today or representatives from MCED? Good to see you here. Thank you for coming. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to put on the level and quality of events that we do and be member focused. So we thank you for that. Part of that, too, is our presenting sponsors for this event today. And I want to bring up Ruben Lazalde with Eagle, Sand, and Gravel, just real quick, to as one of our presenting sponsors. Thank you very much, Ruben.
This is going to be very short and simple. I'm Ruben Lazalde with Eagle, Sand, and Gravel. We're a family organization. We've been sand mining in this area for about 20-25 years. And our main export is, how our name is, sand and gravel. And what we mainly sell is concrete sand, which you use in every aspect of business, transportation, and everything. You're actually standing on concrete right now as we speak. And all of our concrete is made in the USA. Thank you, Mark.
Yep. No imports, I like that. That's pretty good, and probably a great sponsor for today, since, you know, a lot of these things that we drive on actually use sand and gravel to make those happen. So we appreciate your support of our chamber. Thank you very much. Our also presenting sponsor today in a dual role is I3 Verticals. Jason, you want to come on up? And Jason, you were doing something pretty cool over there, and I hope people drop in business cards for you, because at the end of this, we're giving away an iPad today. That's not something that would normally happen at an informational type function, but thanks to I3 Verticals, we appreciate that, man. It's all yours.
How's everybody doing today? Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year to you.
Let's give a round of applause for Mark and his staff for putting this together. This is it's not very often that we get the opportunity to actually get very valuable information. So I'm very grateful for events like this. So thank you, Mark, for all that stuff. So my name is Jason Musher with I3 Verticals. We do anything payment related with your customers, right? So obviously we do credit card processing. A lot of people do that. The main thing that we do is we provide a lot of the solutions to make things easier for you and easier for your customers. We work in a lot of different industries. We do a lot with municipalities. If you've ever gotten a ticket, there's a pretty good chance that that credit card was processed as an I3 product or an I3 solution. We do a lot with school districts. If you've ever loaded a lunch money on your kid's lunch card, there's a pretty good chance that that was an I3 solution. We do a lot with retail and with restaurants as well. The main thing that we do is we want to make things easier for you as a business owner. A lot of times, a lot of things that we're doing isn't necessarily just processing the payment. It's integrating all your different systems. That way you're getting all the information that you need. If you need to send out invoices, we can do all that for you. They get automatic reminders, all that stuff integrated into your AR software. That way you guys are getting live accurately. So if you guys interact with the customer in any form or fashion, grab a card, give me a call, and I'll be more than happy to go over any questions or any issues that you guys are having with regards to taking payments for your customers. Thank you. Make sure you put a card in it.
Sorry, staff, we're not allowed to win the iPad. And that was a big thank you. Once again, thank you, I3 Verticals, for your sponsorship today. We also have a new level of investment with our chamber. We want to thank our distinguished investors. If you happen to be in the room, anyone from HCA, Houston Healthcare Kingwood, from Entergy Texas. I know Brian's here. There's Brian right there. Yep. Stand up and wave to everybody. First Financial Bank, and I just got a text from Claire. She can't be here, from Kingwood Emergency Hospital, but a new level of investment to the larger stakeholders in our area. And we certainly appreciate that, because that's just going to help us continue to grow this chamber and do bigger and better things for our entire membership. So you'll be hearing a lot more about these distinguished investors, and if you're a company of that level that's been in business minimum 5 years, may employ 25 or more people, come talk to us about what this looks like. We are going to get started. We are trying to do look at that, right at 12 o'clock. Man, so this is the pace I want to set for this year. We're going to be on time. We're going to do things on time. I've already told our speakers. I've even got cards. I'm going to count them down for their 10-minute presentations. We are going to do this. So if you don't know the format, real quickly, each speaker gets to come up and do a 10-minute presentation on their subjects. And then they're going to break into a 20-minute discussion panel that will be led by Jon Unterreiner. And talk about that specific subject. Once that's done, we'll take a short break. Let you guys do whatever you need to do and come back and sit down, and we'll do the second session, which will be on law enforcement and criminal justice. So the first one, obviously, is roads and mobility, and our first speaker up is Montgomery County Precinct 4 Commissioner James Metz.
Thank you, Mark. 10 minutes. Anybody knows me, that's not nearly enough time for me. And we're sticking this strictly to mobility and the projects that we have underway, and get you an update of where we are now, where they stand. Commissioner Clark has started many of these road bond projects on his time he's here today. We visit often on the phone back and forth on different projects, but I'll get right to it. She'll have a slide up there, some of those. I'll look at my notes here. Gene County, you know that it's under construction out there. It's going to be 2 lanes with a turn lane. It already needs to be 5 lanes with a turn lane. With the amount of activity that's going on, we're already looking at that. That will require a road bond for us to be able to deal with that in the future. I don't have a date on the final completion, but they're well underway there. We're moving along both of them. Bill Smith and company are the ones that's taking care of that project. They won the bid. We had to go back and rebid it, and they won it again. We have a good working relationship with those folks, and it's been going well. And we will work on that in the future to widen that to 5 lanes. That'll be one of the first projects on the road bond. Old Houston Road is under construction now, out here between 242 and 3083 area up there. It's moving along really well. We're working with Energy to try to move their utilities. There's a lot that goes into building a road. It's not just the widening of it. If you don't have the right of way, you have to purchase the right of way. After you get the bonds that are road approved to build these, then you have to move the utilities. I don't envy people in schools right now with the amount of people that are moving here. We have around 160,000 with the largest population by precinct in Montgomery County. And we're dealing with the mobility problems. You guys are having to deal with schools and energy. I don't know how you do it to try to keep up with home. So we're working closely with them to get the utilities moved over there so we can get that, to get the Old Houston Road finished. In a minute, we'll touch on on the other part that needs to be done as well. Salters Road, that's about, they're gonna have a pre-construction meeting here right away on it. That will be 4 lanes with a turn lane. Long time needed over there. We're doing maintenance in that area, as we speak, to try to help with the drainage and, to keep, sand and other things off the road. And that goes well, but we already let the bid on that. It's already been approved in the Commissioner's Court, and they will start that construction very soon on the Salters Road project. It will go down to right around the drainage ditch is where that will go to. Ford Road, we haven't started construction on that. Design is 90% complete. We're in purchasing right away now. We have 61 parcels out of 100. There are about 7 people that we'll probably have to go to the eminent domain with, but just to touch on that quickly, I'm not an eminent domain kind of guy. I understand how it works and it has to happen sometimes, but I told the people when I came on board, the folks that we're dealing with, you make folks a fair offer. And if they don't accept that, you make them a more than fair offer. And if we can't do that, then we'll have to figure something out or have to take it to court. Real estate appraisals, you all know that property is just through the roof. And so we're cutting it very close on some of the right-of-way purchases that we're doing on these roads. David Memorial, it's not right here, it's across the river on 242, but it is something that is sorely needed and has been for many years over there for traffic around the hospitals. Okay, Mark. Around the hospitals over there, that's traffic, 20 years ago, traffic backed up on the feeder, and it still does. David Memorial will help with that. I'll skip this other and go to the flyover. The 242 direct connect. I offered the state $8 million. They wouldn't take it. Charlie Riley and myself got together, and so we're going to fund that from pass-through funds that we had before the entire flyover, and we're continuing to work with them. The state stepped up and ponied up $15 million to take care of the drainage under 242. Commissioner Clark got the widening of 242 from 59 on his watch, and then the flyover. We can tie all this together. There's a street dominant by the food bank over there, and David Memorial. We're hoping to have all this construction completed once the widening of the 242 corridor is finished there. Town is another street they're working on that's about 90% complete. I just mentioned Donwood. That'll be a concrete roadway that's crucial in that area with a tremendous amount of traffic. Community Drive, if you're very familiar with Community Drive by Ace Hardware, under construction now. That will be two lanes, turn lane there. All these projects have been a long time coming. They're sorely needed, and we've got things in here moving forward on them. It's going to help with mobility here, but that's not nearly enough, guys. We're already working with TxDOT and others. We're on the 2090 corridor. That's the next place where a tremendous amount of homes are going to be coming in there. They expect the 4,000 to 5,000 soon. Mr. Signorelli has bought about 3,000 acres, and he's known to think big and move fast. And so they'll be working on that as well. I don't need to give you Dr. Burke and what you guys are facing up there trying to get schools in these places for the amount of people that are coming here. I just talked to him briefly about, I read an article a day or so ago. U-Haul last year couldn't keep up with the demand for their services in California for so many people fleeing California and moving here. And I don't see that's a bad thing. Nobody told my family in 1841 that we couldn't live here, so I don't think we have an option to do that. They come here because a lot of people before me have worked very hard to make Montgomery County a wonderful place to live and to work and to raise your family here. We have great job opportunities. We have wonderful churches and great schools, recreation. We have it all here if you want to live. I'm glad to be from Montgomery County, and I'm continuing to do my part as your commissioner to work on the drainage. We do that daily, and we have a wonderful staff and a wonderful team. I try to compensate them to keep them. If you will notice, if you'll read, that people are quitting their jobs in droves, and we've had people that laughed at us trying to hire them for trash. It proves that we can stay home and make more money than what you're going to pay over there. But we're still moving forward. We still have the clean roadside crew. They're doing an outstanding job. So that's all part of it's important to keep the roadways that we have and others clear. I'd just like to take about a minute. The new project and the next road bond that I don't really see this honestly coming in the next 2 years, maybe in 3 to have another road bond. Of course, it's voter approved, but some projects that need to be on there is Old Houston Road on the south of 242 down to the Village Way area. Tremendous amount of traffic and 18-wheeler traffic there as well. Incidentally, we have Constable Hayden and I just worked together to put on a commercial motor vehicle compliance guide to cope with the problems that we're having with that. I just mentioned to you that we're working with TxDOT to expedite that project on 2090 up there. There's nothing on the books right now, but we know it's already there, and we know that it's coming. What's coming there to want to move that. Dog Collins is another road that will need to be on the road bond. Fostory Road will need to be widened before too long. Tremendous amount of traffic there. And then on the far side of the precinct is Sleepy Hollow Road that will need to be added. And we work daily to maintain all of these, but that's about the 10-minute version. There's a lot more to it than that, guys. But they're working daily. We have wonderful contractors that are moving this as fast as they can in a timely manner. And we're trying to expedite all these as we can. Folks are moving here, we're aware of it, and we're going to do our best to accommodate them and accommodate the schools and others that depend on transportation, fire and EMS and others, to be able to get from point A to point B, and you and me. So thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. Thank you, Mark. That's my presentation for the.
Thanks for 10 minutes. Yeah. We do appreciate that. We are moving right along, and we're going to bring up from the Texas Department of Transportation, Abraham Guzman, right? All right. Please help me welcome Abraham. He's going to update us on the 242 project.
So I haven't done one of these since before COVID, so bear with me. I kind of make a lot of jokes because I get nervous. So we'll begin with the Houston District. Montgomery County is in the Houston District. There are 6 different counties in the Houston District. And I'm getting nervous already. So I'll go over the Texas transportation system. Talk about 242, the drainage, the scope, and the speed limits in the area. So I am Abraham Guzman. I am the area engineer of Montgomery County. At this time, I'm going to have an assistant. Our office is in Conroe, and it's on 3083. So current and future projects on 242. So currently, we have the entire corridor under construction, from Needham all the way to 59. So it's the one portion that hasn't actually had construction on it right now. It already let James Construction, their contractor, on it, and they're supposed to begin working on Monday. So that project will be the last one to have everything go from 2 lanes to 4 lanes divided, and that one is approximately 3 years. The one on 242 from 1485 to 59, which is over here on the East County, it's about 50% complete. We have another 2.5 years on it. The future projects, we have one on 242 on the other side of 45 to go from 4 lanes to 6 lanes. It'll need it also, and as well as the direct connector that we're working with Commissioner Metz on. The project map, project scope, and the project timeline. So the big one right now is a 1485 at 69. That one's 50% complete. That's the only one that I have a picture of. I apologize. So the project scope for the construction is to regrade, build cross culverts, bridges. Sorry. Being concrete, we're going to have sidewalks there. We're going to have detention ponds. Right now, we don't have a detention pond right of way for detention ponds. So we're gonna have temporary detention ponds in our right of way. The reason why we would prefer the permanent detention ponds off-site is the side slopes. For safety, we don't really like the ones we have out there. That's why we have the low profile barrier up. But we at least have the detention to prevent flooding. It's also going to have a periodic transportation management system that'll basically connect from 59 all the way to 45. That's me there. Oh, sorry. So that one's, it's going to have interconnect, so that we'll be able to get the DMS for the large message board signs up that says, you know, accident ahead, slow down, stuff, you know, all the wonderful stuff we put on signs. It's going to go from, so the pavement structure is going to be concrete. So right now it's on asphalt. We're going to replace the asphalt with concrete. We'll have 2 lanes in each direction. We divide it. We've already did an interim traffic switch to get on that new concrete paving from 69 to Harrington Drive. And so that way they can expedite the project. It's supposed to be completed in mid-2024, so in theory, everything from 45 from Needham to 59 should be complete by the end of 24. In theory. It's the best protection you can get. So the drainage efforts, again, we're extending the existing cross culverts, we're adding some cross culverts. We're regrading the ditches. Right now they're oversized to help prevent any flooding. Once we get the detention ponds, we'll go regrade the ditches so they're supposed to be for safety. We're adding as much as we can for the drainage. I know they're going to the new Atlas 14. I do not know what that really means. All I know is that it means you need more storage to help prevent flooding. Safety and speed limits. Right now, the speed limit is 45 in the construction zone. We need y'all's help to actually go that slow. It's it's for safety. It's, you know, we have, you know, it's for everybody's safety. It's not just the workers, it's for the traveling public. It's, you know, we have head-ons right now. It's, a lot of them are contributed to speed. So it's, please help with the speed. I'm used to being in the HOA meetings where I have time for questions, comments, and concerns, but I was told that I have to do this.
You want to defer your time?
That's just come back up. If anybody has any questions, there's the main line in my office. Dana is my admin tech. She's really good at, you know, forwarding the call to me. All my calls are forwarded to my cell phone. Terrible at emails sometimes, but she reminds me, hey, you have concerns. Well, if there are concerns, everything's a concern. And that's everything that I got. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Abraham. I have to tell you, Abraham, that, you know, our groups, it's not just informational, we're fun and friendly. So, right? Isn't that the part of our formula? What makes this chamber work so well and resonate and keeps going? So you can have a good time with us, man. You just appreciate you sharing some information. So what did you learn from that one? Because I got a little bit extra time, but I know John will be part of the panel. We're not going to do questions right now, but what I learned from that is everybody always wants to know, when is it going to be done, right? And so you answered that in theory. In theory. So we're going to save after the panel, if we do have some questions and things like that, if we have time, once we get through everything into that, we'll try to get to this. So once again, thank you for giving us an update from TxDOT on the 242 project. All right, how many are familiar with the North Park Drive project. They've been talking about it for a while, right? And what that, you may or may not have been to a presentation on one. We're looking for a little bit of an update here, and we have Ralph De Leon. Did I do that right? Oh, wow, okay, I did something right. You're not.
I'm not a microphone guy, so I'm just gonna put this in there.
You can have fun with it, I told you.
All right, so I'm gonna break this down. I got 10 minutes. I've met the commission before, he's familiar with all this stuff. So first I'm gonna tell you who we are. So the Lake Houston Redevelopment Authority is what's called a Texas Transportation Corporation. We're created pursuant to the Texas Transportation Corporation Act. It's a not-for-profit governmental corporation. In this particular instance, the city of Houston petitioned the state created the corporation, and the city adopted it by resolution. The reason they picked Chapter 431 is the authority to issue bonds. The city likes a corporation that's separate from the city because we can issue bonds, and it doesn't appear in the city's debt model. So we're independent. It's either the backer or the insurer of the bond issued by the authority. So the bonds are securitized like what's called tax increments. Those are basically, the city dedicates a portion of its existing ad valorem tax or its property tax to a fund, and then we use those funds to securitize the other bond. So we don't have an office, we don't have a phone number, we don't have anything, we're just a corporation in name only. In the case of Lake Houston, chose to do that because instead of paying admin fees, almost all their money goes into project costs. So instead of having a lot of overhead, or we have no staff, for example. And that way they can, I call Dave Martin coffee box boy, because he gets Starbucks coffee once a month and he gets a piece of pastry. And that's what he gets. So all our money really goes towards public improvements. So next I'll talk about the project. The project is actually two phases. It's an eastern phase and a western phase. We're here today to talk about what they call the overpass project. That's from the I-69 to the Russell Palmer. There's a second phase. The second phase will be bid when the first phase is substantially complete, and that goes from Russell Palmer to a little bit past Woodland Hills. We are building an evacuation route. We're building to Atlas 14, which I do know what it means. Atlas 14 has to do with rainfall rates in a short period of time. So because we get these big floods, and really it's not so much that the water is coming out of the bayous, it's because the water is coming down so fast, the gravity flows, and it just leaves the streets and goes everywhere. So Atlas 14 has to do with these intense short-term rainfall events. So we're building to Atlas 14 standards, and we're building to the 100-year floodplain of Atlas 14. So in your mind's eye, if you guys are familiar with North Park Drive, it's going to be higher than it is today. If you're familiar with the eastern part of North Park Drive, we're going to replace the bridges on Kingwood Diversion Ditch, and everything where Ben's Branch crosses North Park, all that's all that. It'll all be elevated, it'll be much different than it is today. On the western side, which we're going to talk about now, okay, I can do 2 minutes. We're going to not just elevate the road, we're going to put in 2 detention ponds on TxDOT right away. At the I-69 and North Park Drive, we can elevate the city's North Park, but we had some community meetings, and what they said is there'd be a line of cars trying to get out, and then the actual intersection of feeder roads at the I-69 flood, and so that they wouldn't be able to get on the freeway, they would get out. So we're actually building 2 detention ponds, big ones, on TxDOT right away on the east side of the 69 to mitigate and bring the existing feeder roads out of those so people can actually get out. I got an email that says, some of the questions you have back. I want to talk about 2 things. I'm not even looking at the park. So in your mind's eye, if you're familiar with North Park Drive, the section between the 494 and Russell Palmer has an enormous, I call it a canal. Some people call it a ditch, it's giant. So we're going to put a substantial amount of inline retention where that ditch is now. There'll be concrete boxes. At the end of these reservoirs will be what's called a restrictor. So water can rapidly flow in at a rapid rate, and then it's detained, it's restrained. It can only go out. We're also going to have 2 outflows. One to Ben's Branch, north of North Park, and then there's going to be another outflow onto Kingwood Diversion Ditch. So I was sitting by Pamela earlier, she asked about flooding. Interestingly enough, not only because of code, we have to have a no impact, and we had to do a comprehensive drainage study. It's been approved by the flood control district, as well as the city floodplain administrator. But this project, when it's done, won't just mitigate North Park Drive. Flooding will actually be improved because of what we're doing from existing conditions today. If there was a no-build situation, it would be worse. The bill actually improves existing and got 5 minutes. So in your mind's eye, here how they're going to construct. This is, I think, some of the questions we were getting. The contractor is going to do 4 phases. The first phase is going to build 2 concrete lanes on top of the ditches now. We're trying to maintain 2 lanes in both directions at all times of the construction period. So he's going to build 2 concrete lanes with ditches now, and then he's going to move all of the eastbound traffic onto the 2 lanes that just got constructed. So westbound will still continue to travel on the north side westbound, all eastbound traffic will go to 2 lanes. Then he's going to demo the 2 lanes to the south side and reconstruct the 2 lanes there. Then he's going to shift everything to the south. Westbound will become the 2 lanes in the middle. Southbound will become the 2 new lanes that were constructed. Then he's going to demo the north side and build 2 lanes there. Because we're going from 2 lanes to 6 lanes. So Pamela lives in Kings Mill. I told her she's lucky because that's the easy part. And she's at the beginning of the construction. The second phase is then they're going to construct between the 494 and the I-69. We are building a 6-lane bridge over the 494 and the railroad tracks. The state is making us maintain at-grade crossings at the 494. So when you have 1 railroad crossing today, you're going to have 2. You'll have an eastbound dedicated feeder road and a westbound dedicated feeder road, plus the bridge over. So the last part of the project will be the construction of the overpass itself. But at that point, you'll have 2 lanes going on now the feeder roads which have been constructed, eastbound at grade, and then 2 lanes coming westbound at the feeder roads. I was asked, where does the bridge end and where does it start? It actually leaves grade on the west side about where the Whataburger is, and then it comes back to grade about where Dairy Queen is. Or no, Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah. Dunkin' Donuts. So what will happen is that right where Dunkin' Donuts is, if you were going westbound, is where the feeder road would peel off. You would go over the bridge or go to the feeder road, and then if you were coming eastbound, where Whataburger is, actually where the Exxon station is the beginning of where the feeder road peels off. Whataburger is actually on the feeder road, and then you'll have the lanes. We're going to put turnarounds underneath, so that if there's an incident at the train track and you wouldn't be stuck, you could actually go underneath the bridge and make a U-turn back. So, I think I'm under time.
No, you got 2 minutes. Would you mind forwarding to the video?
Sure. So this is something you fill out the, I'm actually, yes. Dan Sarman was with you today. If you want to see a lot of information about the project, you can go to Lake Houston RA, LakeHoustonRedevelopmentAuthority.com. On the left-hand side, you see the T1013 project. I mentioned there's 2 projects with T1013 and T1014. T1013 is the overpass project. We have videos that show the landscaping and the detention ponds at the I-69. You can see the simulation, which is if you were on North Park Drive. And there's also a funny one that shows, they take traffic counts and they can convert those into little icons of cars. So you can see a build and no build situation. You can tell how much the traffic, you see this is the overpass, go over. So you can see in simulation what it's going to look like. It's very fancy. And I think that's probably all I have to say. We have a question and answer period later on. You have 2 minutes, you can see the.
You can give us a tour around, you know, go over the overpass.
Yeah, the overpass, and then soon we'll get to Russell Palmer. We're going to build the intersection of Russell Palmer as part of phase 1. Then on east of Russell Palmer, we'll transition back to the asphalt that's existing. And then I mentioned the overpass pretty much has to be substantially completed before they'll demo the back half. It's 2.5 miles long. It's a very busy road. It's really not safe to have done all 2.5 miles at the same time. I mentioned before we're going to have an eastern sector, we're going to replace 2 bridges that came into the Virgin Ditch, and then the engineers are still figuring out how they're going to get Ed's branch of the diagonal over North Park Road. It looks like they'd be building a culvert, it's not a bridge itself. So I think I've taken my time. Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ralph, for doing that. I think North Park, once that project is done, is going to look a little better than it does today. What do you think? What you call, we call the ditch, and you call, what was it, that whole canal? I just call it a magnet, because whenever it rains, we always find a car in that canal every single time. Having that actually covered up. Do you have any theoretical timelines?
So we should bid probably first quarter of 2022, so pretty quick here. We acquired 28 parcels. There's a thing called rural to urban standards. Some of the parcels we have acquired just didn't have the best, cleanest title. It's taken us over a year to kind of unravel some of it. For public entity, we have to have clean title. So we have about 6 or 7 parcels left to acquire, but really there's multiple parcels. We have to acquire 2 now from UPRR. You know where the public storage is, it's 2 from there, and the Center Point's right next door, 2 from there. And then I think Chick-fil-A, and I think we're done. So I would say this quarter, the next couple of months we'll bid. It's a little over 30 months. And so we'll probably bid the eastern sector, I'd say 2025, 2026. We really want the overpass open before we start to demo the back out. Otherwise, if you have a flood and you live in Kingwood, it's challenging enough. We wouldn't want to add to that.
Up here, we'll get you started. I put the QR code up for that website that you were talking about if you'd like to learn more about this project. And I know that you do. We want to follow that. We have lots of member businesses along that North Park Drive area, so we're real interested in watching that. Let me turn that on for you, John. Please. I am going to turn this over. John has been so instrumental with this chamber, not only with our leadership programs, but helping facilitate and moderate panels. So just want to thank you, John, for doing this. I am going to hand a microphone over. You guys can pass it back and forth as this goes along. But help me welcome Jon Unterreiner for leading our panel here.
Thank you all. Can you hear me in the back? Good. All right. So I really appreciate having the 3 of you stick around for a little panel discussion. I just got a couple questions here that we can kind of ask of all 3 of you. And some of it's already been covered, and if so, you feel free to just kind of pass on that question. We'll get on to some of the others. First one is for everybody, but I'd like Commissioner for you to start first. And you talk about how the projects are funded. So we saw all the projects up there. We heard a little bit about a road bond. Talk about do you have money in an annual budget to build roads? Where does the money come from to build our new roads? If the rest of you can answer that too.
Our new roads are funded either by grants or by road bonds. Those have to be voter approved. I think it was 68 million, Clark may correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 68 million in the last road bond in 2015. Those were approved. That was from Montgomery County, the Precinct 4 portion. But that's how you do the major projects that we're working on now. Now your maintenance of your road, your regular budget that you get from the county, that's just to do maintenance. There's not enough money in it to build out new projects. It's too expensive. It's about, if you have to put road base down along with the road now, it's around $200,000 a mile to build a road. You just don't have your budget to do that. So that's where the road bonds or grants that we're going after come in to help fund larger projects.
So to follow up on that real quickly, so we see some projects that you identified for the next cycle, but the lead time from the time that a need is identified to the time that you can actually get the funding through a bond election and get the road built, how many years do you think that is?
Well, right now, as I say, for the next road bond, I don't see a road bond coming. We need it now, but I don't see it coming up within the next 2 years. It has the funding. We're paying on the bonds that we have now. We're also trying to keep your taxes low. We went to the noted revenue rate the last 3 years, but we're also trying to meet the obligations that we have here along with the roads and keep keep the taxes low, but that's the way it'll have to be done.
And we're still talking about projects up here that you were saying Commissioner Clark helped fund, put together in the road bonds, and it takes years after the road bond gets approved to get the land acquired and get everything built.
That's great.
So we have to be way out in front of it. And Ralph, I think you already answered a lot of how you all are funded, so.
Yeah, I can give you a couple more bits of information. So I mentioned the project is done in 2 phases. So on the western phase, which is the overpass portion, it's 100% local funded. The city contributed $15.4 million, and we had issued bonds already to pay for the balance of that. When I was, I'll tell you a funny story. So when I was meeting with the commissioner and telling him about the project, and he found out that it's 100% local funded, and it's not going to cost him a dime. He told us how much he liked this. On the eastern half, it's 80% federal funded. We applied for a transportation improvement fund grants, and we got it. We received that a couple years ago, and it's 20%. It's called a 20% local co-match. So the authorities will issue bonds for not just the 20% of the construction costs, but the way the grant's written, we have to pay for right-of-way acquisition, and we have to pay for any public utility. So the federal government will pay for 80% of the construction costs. We'll pay for 20%, and then any additional fees after that.
Great, always good to get some money from the outside in too. Abraham?
So for our interstate roads, like for 59, or I-69 or I-45, those are 100% federally funded with tax dollars. And your FM roads or your SH roads are 80% federal and 20% state. If we have small projects that are just overlay projects, not full reconstruction, those are 100% state for the most part. So.
And so to clarify that, I think I've heard maybe Commissioner, maybe it was yesterday that you said that all the TxDOT number roads are all the number of roads. So FM 2090, all the FMs, the 242, the 6945.
494.
494, right? All of those are the TxDOT roads, and then the county basically picks up everything that is local.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah, please do.
I wanted to touch on something. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart that are involved with the North Park overpass. It is a tremendous public safety advantage. I was justice police for 16 years. Anytime there's a fatality accident over there, if you're on the east side, you're the only way you can get out, you're going to have to go all the way around the Westlake Houston Parkway and get out over that way. This will be a tremendous public safety advantage that you guys are doing, and I appreciate that very much. Plus, we won't have to maintain it anymore. Enough savings to us up here, and I'm grateful for that as well. So thank you guys for what you're doing there from a public safety and mobility. It's a long time coming and much appreciated.
Perfect. Commissioner, why don't you keep the microphone and tell us a little bit about who decides what gets built and when it gets built.
In regards to the road, we do traffic. I've done traffic studies, and I'm sure Commissioner Park probably did the same to help us determine. Being a lifelong resident here, we know where a lot of the problems are, but we like to have traffic studies and traffic counts to help us determine where we need this the most. And that's the way that we come up with this. That's why we come up with the projects that I mentioned that we'd like to do in the future.
So it's done and decided at the commissioner level, from a county level, and then obviously funded through the county. So everything is county level or below.
Yes, on our roads here, on county roads, yes, and voter approved bonds usually is how those are funded.
Ralph, I don't know if that question really applies to you, since is it one and done, or?
So we have what's called a capital improvement plan. They're done in 5-year segments. And so it's part of our budget process we go through the city. Right now we're in fiscal year 22, so our 5-year statement would be FY22 to FY26.
Will there be future projects after the North Park?
Yeah, we actually, interestingly enough, span both Harris County and Montgomery County. On our radar, this is in Harris County's Mills Branch, between North Park Drive and Kingwood Drive. We're also currently partnering with the Harris County Flood Control District on 2 PERs at the preliminary engineering report, one on Taylor Gully and one on Kingwood Diversion Ditch. And so because we don't have big pockets, we endeavor to leverage our funds and work with other entities. So we're on our radar would be projects with the flood control district, where we purchased in Montgomery County what was called the Perry Home site. We're going to do a big detention pond there. We have, I forgot the name of the acronym, but it's a 30-year grant. It's a federal grant. It's interest-free. $30 million, $1 million a year. What we use to develop that site.
Great. Abraham, who decides what gets built and when on TxDOT roads?
So for the small projects that are overlay projects to maintain our roads, it's typically the area at the area office level. So we request funding for it, and we get the funding from district, and it takes about 4 years for the funding to come through. For the large rehab projects, they go through the HGAC. They have to compete with projects in the entire Houston district, so all 6 counties.
So still some at the local level and then maybe a little bit more at the district level out of Houston?
Yeah, so like we have, for the overlays, we have a bad road where we have a bunch of crack seal on it, like on 1314 south of Loop 336. I just drove through there and we need to do an overlay. So we'll request funding for that, and in 4 years we'll do it. So for the large projects, that would be HGAC.
Perfect. I have alluded to a little bit on drainage detention. It's a big component of any roadway project, and it's a big concern for East Montgomery County with all the flooding events that we have. So I think, Abraham, you mentioned on your projects that you have put detention and ponds and things in your projects. Can you talk about that?
Yes, sir. So it's the same thing. We have to do the 100-year flood. We have to have a zero impact. So if we feel any dirt in the floodplains, we have to find a location to excavate in the same drainage area to make sure that we're not causing an impact in that area. 242, even though it led before the Atlas 14 changes came out, all the ponds will be designed and built to accommodate the Atlas 14. That's kind of why it's taking so long to get the permanent ponds in, because they keep getting larger. So 242 will be built to the new standard, which is going to help.
Ralph, saying that on the drainage you talked about that you're doing.
Yeah, we're not a jurisdictional entity. We're simply on the funding mechanism. And we do leverage, I mentioned we're getting federal funds. We're working to get this $30 million grant for drainage. Whoever has the highest standard is defaulted. So whatever entity we're working with or leveraging with, whoever has the highest bar in terms of regulatory controls, that's what we're defaulting.
Commissioner, drainage, is it a big piece of your roadway projects?
Absolutely, one of the important along with mobility. We continue our daily drainage with equipment that we have, but we also utilize something called drainage easement agreements that we're using. It's the only way that you can get on private property legally, and we have a number of those waiting right now to go through the county attorney's office and put those in place, but we will get on private property and open up an outflow where there's an outfall where there's a beaver dam on it or some other disruption that's happened over time. Those are the things that we're doing. I mentioned yesterday that we went after a $34 million grant to desnag Peach Creek, Caney Creek, White Oak Creek, part of the east fork of the river over here, and to build a bridge and Roman Forest across Peach Creek. We did not get that grant. We're resubmitting. George Bush, the GLO, asked us to resubmit that, and there's another round of money coming, so we're hopeful that we'll be able to get that. That will go a long way to remove a structure that's impeding the flow of water here to help with our flooding issues.
So we hear a lot about contractors being really busy, high prices, across the board inflation. How is pricing and schedules affected in projects that you've bid recently?
Well, just as I mentioned earlier, it costs you about $140,000 a mile just to have a project overlaid on asphalt. And we found that our roads are getting beyond their service life. We have 900 miles of road, and about 700 of those need to be redone now. And it's just next to impossible without a road bond. But we've seen with the inflation here recently that our cost went up to around $140,000 just overlay. And then, as I said, if you need any base, all that has went up. The concrete, crushed concrete that we use for base, all those prices have increased, and it affects us directly and immediately. And it slows down the amount of miles that you can pave annually.
And same question, if you can pass that down, I'm curious how it affects your projects, the pricing and schedule.
Well, we use TxDOT unit price values, which come out once a month, and they've gone up considerably. In the last year, even 40%. But it's kind of a catcher's catch can. That sounds like you should just trend upwards, but you really don't know what's going to happen to you open the bids, and it's all over the map.
So you're still able to do the original scope within your budget?
Yes, we've seen an increase in the prices. For us, I think asphalt was closer to $70, $75 a ton. Now we're closer to $100 a ton. So it's gone up dramatically, but the limits aren't changing. We're just requesting more money from the federal government and the state.
Well, they're print money, so that's okay. So, Abraham, this one's probably best for you, but a fun one for everybody. If you see a dangerous intersection that you pull out on every day and you want to get a signal put in or have an improvement made, how does that work?
So the fun part is, it's not that hard. You send, well, to start the process, it's not that hard. You just send a letter to me requesting a traffic study at the intersection. I do a memo and I send it down to traffic in the Houston district. Say, hey, I have a request for a traffic signal here. Please look into it. They add it to their list. They do a traffic study on it. If it does meet warrants, they will let me know, hey, it meets warrants. We're gonna go ahead and start the design process. They'll add it to the list. It's 6 different counties. It's a long list. If it has next to a railroad, it's an even longer process. But it takes about 2 to 3 years, depending on where it falls on the list. And if it doesn't meet, traffic is supposed to call whoever put in the request and let them know why. They don't let me do it because I will say the wrong thing because I don't know the way they know. So I avoid traffic and I avoid drainage. I refer to the experts at the Houston district.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you learn that you can't just put a signal there because you want one, and actually the traffic counts have to warrant it. So you can win as much as you want, if the traffic counts don't warrant it, they're not allowed to put a signal there. I thought that was fascinating.
Correct.
And then when talking to Commissioner Metz the other day about this, the county only maintaining, your precinct only has 2 traffic signals, is it, that are owned by the county? Yeah. The rest, every signal you see is on TxDOT roads, which is kind of fascinating. Never thought of that before, but pretty interesting. So, since we're talking to a lot of business owners, when TxDOT goes in, limits driveway access to businesses and things, how do you all balance providing access to the businesses and still protecting the functionality of the high-speed road?
We have an access management manual that we have to follow. It gives us the spacing. We don't like to do the minimum spacing. We're not going to landlock somebody either. So if your parcel's only this big and you're not going to meet access management, we will give a variance. But if it's possible to share with the adjacent property, we're going to push for that. It is for safety. We have too many driveways. We end up having more accidents. So it's not to be difficult. It's for safety.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner.
So when you bid a project, you have a project manual. There's what's called general conditions and supplemental conditions. You give your contractor instructions. And so your question was, how do you maintain access? And you tell him that he has to maintain access for 24 hours a day. And he cannot interrupt that. There might be an hour or 2 here and there. One thing to keep in mind though is when you do it that way, if the contractor could close the road, kick everybody off and build his road, it would be super cheap and super fast. So when you have provisions to maintain access at all times, you add there's a danger factor in there because you have people going over a construction zone. So it adds cost to the project that takes longer, and that's what you have to kind of balance is your budget, but also you have to people have to be able to access their homes. So really it's a trade-off.
Good. We have 1 minute left, Commissioner. If you want to finish up, you said you wanted to add something to that. Did you? No. All right. How about one for you? Is the biggest challenges for our area for mobility? What do you see our biggest challenges on?
Just the amount of people moving here, and I'm not opposed to that at all, because as I say, we have the largest population here. But coming up with new roads, we have ideas from our traffic studies, and before we feel like these are going to be, we definitely know that from the property that's been sold to developers up around the Splendor School District out 2090 West out there, that's 6,000 acres in one lot. And people like Cinderella think big and move fast. So those are, in my opinion, the next most serious traffic issues that we have. We're addressing those with the other roads, the Ford and the ones I mentioned earlier. We've already addressing those. Those are the new places, the new frontier that we're going to be dealing with up there, and working with Abraham and others on the 2090 corridor to get that done in a timely manner, try to get out ahead of it, because it's just coming there soon.
Great, perfect timing. We're right on schedule, so thank you all very much. I appreciate your time.